can too, and anyone really can use the tarot, is for warm-up, for the psychodramatic warm-up. Research tarot and Jungian practices, tarot and psychotherapy, the Three of Swords, which is a three swords piercing what appears to be a Valentine heart. And therapeutic task. Can I be with that feeling long enough to work through it? The card that she pulled was the Death card. She ended up reuniting with her father who had been missing for many years.
Hello, welcome to channel on Action Explorations. Our topic today is tarot cards and images in clinical setting. Interview with K.Carnabucci. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Anna. It is really good to be here.
New online education alert. If you're studying psychodrama and would like to learn it online with pre-recorded video formats, please check out actionexplorations.education. Watch for detailed announcement at the end of this video. To start with, could you please say what is important to know about tarot cards in regards of our topic?
Well, when we're working with psychodrama, we are setting a scene. And we're setting a scene that is not just physical, but it's also visual. And that is one of the wonderful things about psychodrama, is that we can see it, we can stand in the mirror position, we can look at it from all angles around the stage. And then in psychodrama, we step into the scene, which allows us to experience it from the inside as well as the outside. And there's something magical, as we know, as psychodramatists, and those of us who have worked in psychodrama, about experiencing it from many different levels and many different places. And we do the same thing with the tarot. The tarot is in pictures.
The topic is about tarot cards and images. So when we're talking about images, what kind of images do you suggest?
In terms of the kinds of cards we use, do you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I use the very, very traditional Waite Rider Coleman deck, which has been around for more than a century. It is the deck that people think of when they think of tarot. The truth is, there are many decks that are available now, literally probably a new one every month, if not every week. And many of them are beautiful, and many of them are wonderful, and many of them speak to specialty audiences. I'd use other decks as well. When we are looking for a tarot deck as opposed to an oracle card deck, and there are many of those as well because those are becoming very popular as well, we want something that is symbol rich. By symbol rich, I mean many symbols to look at, a rich picture, a picture that shows many things, because that is part of our warm-up when we get going with warming up our brain, warming up our imagination, warming up that part of us that loves the visual, and then helps us ultimately to create the scene so fully, to let our imagination run, and ultimately to enact it in some way or embody it in some way. And so it's a really wonderful thing on so many levels, to be with an image, meditate on the image, step into the image, and act the image, or maybe a part of the image.
Could you please say about the history, like how did you come up to the to this idea of using tarot cards and images in clinical setting?
Well, I used to be able to, I read the tarot cards for years. I can't even tell you when I started. I was just always interested in art and picture and image, and I've been around the tarot cards for years. Eventually, someone in psychodrama found out that I did the tarot. Actually, it was Adam Blattner, And he found out that I did the tarot, and he knew the tarot. And he said, Karen, you've got to do a presentation on this. And I said, oh, no, 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 I'm not ready. But, you know, anyone who knows Adam knows that he pushes you and he nudges you. And he really encourages you to step beyond your self-imposed limits. So I did go ahead and I did present years and years ago at a cruise that Zerka Moreno took for her 80th birthday. And it was popular and people liked it. And then I presented also at the conference one year, the psychodrama conference, and people liked it again. And I began getting this idea that I could integrate it in clinical settings on many levels, sometimes in group as a simple warm-up, sometimes in one-to-one as a simple warm-up, and really have innovated in that way. I'm not sure that I know of anyone else actually using the tarot cards, so I only can tell you how I use them. And I have found them very effective for people who are interested and open to the tarot. And I think that's really important that I want to say. If we have some people that are suspicious, they have certain ideas about the tarot, it's scary, well then we don't use it.
It's like certain people, they have like certain like negative associations, right? Like with the witches and I know. By any chance, do you know about like research? Is there any research?
In the Jungian field, there are many Jungian therapists or Jungian-oriented therapists who have used the tarot on one level or another, dealing with the archetypes, dealing with images. I think sometimes an art therapist might use something around an archetypical image, of which the tarot is full of. In terms of psychodrama and sociometry, there is no book yet about that, at least not that I know. People who are interested, I would certainly direct to the internet and to research tarot and Jungian practices, tarot and psychotherapy. Right now, from what I can tell, it's mostly talk therapy, maybe a little bit of dream work, maybe a little bit of symbol work.
Could you please describe the ways how do you use them? And maybe some stories.
Yes. So one of the most simple ways that I can use the tarot, and you can too, and anyone really can use the tarot, is for warm-up, for the psychodramatic warm-up. So what I might do, what I often do, is I have a deck, and I pull it out. I talk a little bit about the deck and the fact that it is a tarot deck, and it's about a journey, and it's about a journey of self-growth, spiritual growth, movement from one stage to another stage. I'm using that word a little bit as a pun. And encourage people to pick a card. So if I'm working in person, I'm not doing that right now, of course, but if I'm working in person, I will literally take the deck and literally, hand it to the person on my left, ask them to sit, perhaps ask them to breathe for a moment, ask them to pick a card and to turn it over and actually look at it. Very simple. So we pick a card, we look at it, we see what it is, pass the rest of the deck on to the next person. And the next person picks the card and we go around the circle until it comes back to me. And so from there we can go many, many directions. We can go into a dyad or a triad and have group members share about what they see in the card, share what is they like about it, what they don't like about it, what feelings are coming up. Is there a memory coming up or a story coming up in any way that is wanting to be known in the moment? So it's a great sociometric tool for connecting people. They have a card, they look at, they share it, and then we come back to the group. If the group is small or if I have a lot of time that day, We might go around the group one by one, and everyone gets to, hold up the card and share what they see there. At the end of the group, sometimes for closing, what is the message that the tarot wants to tell you today? What is the message the tarot wants to tell you now that we've been doing work all day, or at least for the time of the group? And so then we look and see what that message might be. So they can be very wonderful bookends, even if we do nothing else with it. They are wonderful tools for beginning and for ending. And once again, if you're using an image-rich deck, there's so much to look at just in that way. Sometimes I have people, sometimes I take the deck and I show it to them like this, and I ask them to pick a card, the luck of the draw. Sometimes also for a warm-up, what I've done is I lay all the cards on the floor, or maybe a number of them, depends how much room I have, how much space I have, how much time I have, and some will be face down, meaning people only see the back of the cards, and some will be face up. Oh, that's the devil. The devil card is showing up, right? And they'll be face up. And so there's a mixture of face up and face down cards. So I tell people, you have two choices. You can pick the card that reminds you of something already, and something that you want to talk about, discuss, look at, enact. Or you can take a chance and you can pick a card that you don't know what's going to be, and it's going to be the unknown. And we can even talk about that a little bit. Do you want to take a risk, or do you want to go with something you already know? And, that says a lot about a person too. Also says a lot about a group. Is the group somewhat of a risk-taking group? Yeah, I want to see that. I want to find that thing that I don't know. Or, nah, I want to go with what I already know.
And it gives the insights to the person. So so what is the reason I pick up the known, or what's the reason I pick up unknown? Yeah, that's amazing. By any chance, could you please share any stories about your work?
Clinically, well, I have so many stories on so many levels, but I can share a couple of clinical things. Sometimes, many times, this actually always happens. People pick a card and they don't like it. There's something scary about it. We just had the devil show up, didn't we? Or maybe it's a card like the Three of Swords, which, is a three swords piercing what appears to be a Valentine heart. And, so people don't like it. They want to pick another card. So part of the therapeutic challenge can be, can you stay with that card just a little while? Can you open your window of tolerance just a little bit more? Can you be with it to see what message that it might want to give you, if you dare? Or you can pick another one. So I like to have lots and lots of opportunities for people to have feelings, to notice their feelings, and maybe even in the picking of a card, work through their feeling, which in itself is a therapeutic task. Can I be with that feeling long enough to work through it? On a more specific level of story, I remember I was working with a woman once. She loved the tarot. In fact, she would ask that I bring the tarot up in session because it really appealed to her. And so we're working with the cards, and if I'm working one-to-one, I have the deck and I ask them to pick. Or if we're working virtually, they bring their own deck to the session and they pick. In this case, I was working directly with her in the same space, and the card that she pulled was the Death card. And of course, she didn't like it. It bothered her. We did some work around it. And the traditional meaning of the death card is transformation, which of course we're always looking for when we do psychodrama, right? We're looking for when we do any kind of therapeutic work. And we did some work and it went well, it was okay. And then she went on home. And the next day she called me and she said, Karen, about that card. It was just it was a transformation card. I asked her to notice how it was, after the session, how it was overnight, how it was waking up the next morning. Oh, she was still thinking about that card. And did some soothing, did some grounding, explained the traditional meaning of the card. And then the next day she calls me up again. Karen, about that death card. So it was actually a series of it ended up being a series of therapeutic encounters because that image was very powerful, as of course death is. And it was something that ended up being quite serious for her on a number of levels. I think that we worked through it ultimately, but I also learned a very valuable lesson. And the lesson is sometimes it's okay to pull out a card and just put it in a book, stick it on the shelf, and every image doesn't have to be used. So technically there are 78 cards in the deck. And once in a while, depending who I'm working with, depending on the type of group it is, depending on perhaps a certain kind of trauma that one or two or more people might have suffered, or perhaps certain themes or fears, I might take out one or two or three of the scarier cards.
Ah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for telling that. This is also, it depends on the group, right?
Exactly. As well as the person.
Could you please share more stories?
I have many, and I'm, of course, always aware of confidentiality, but I think that here's another one that I can share safely. This was actually part of a group that I was running, and it was actually a tarot group where we worked with the tarot every single time we met on one level or another. And there was one particular group participant who was always picking cards that had swords on them. And of course, swords are one of the four suits of the tarot. There's swords, cups, pentacles, and wands. And everybody got a whole variety of cards, but she always got swords. Swords refer to belief systems, they refer to thoughts, thought patterns, and so forth. And she wasn't quite sure why she was always getting swords, but she kept getting them. So we kept working with that. And we kept working on belief systems. And I challenged her gently, of course, about belief systems. And we did some various mini action kinds of vignettes with swords and belief systems and thought patterns. And eventually she came to really appreciate the swords because it became to be a revelation for her about the belief systems that she strongly held, not only about herself but about her family. And ultimately she ended up reuniting with her father who had been missing for many years. Her mother's husband, the mother had been divorced. And it ended up being a very, very valuable family reunification for her because she had not seen her father in many years. So there was something wonderful about the blending of the images in the cards, particular images in the cards that kept coming up, as well as her own willingness to step into not just the images, but the action with the images to discover some things about her family and herself that led to some really wonderful things naturally unfolding in her world that made her life a lot better.
Right now we're going to do a short demo with Karen on using the tarot cards in clinical setting. If you'd like to learn psychodrama online from leading trainers, affordably and at your own pace, go to actionexplorations.education. This is my project to expand access to the best trainers in the world. It's my baby. We are working with the leading psychodrama trainers to present pre-recorded programs. The programs will include lecture, cases, and evaluations. There will be a large selection of action exploration subjects. I'm going to add from 5 to 10 modules per month, so the content will be very rich. Namaste. I'm showing this this t-shirt. This is my special interview short.